Well, I certainly want to be among those to welcome you. Happy Father's Day today. All of the dads that are here especially. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of our morning together. And thank you for carving out a little bit of time on this special day to be with us. So it's a privilege. And then also all of you that are here, I mean, come on, it's a good day. You got cupcakes waiting for you when this is all done. And so that's got to be a good day for everybody. But I like one little boy's definition of Father's Day. He said it's just like Mother's Day, only it doesn't cost as much. And that's true, I think. I remember one. I'm going to impale myself on these nails. I'm going to slip it to the side here. You warn me if I get too close. But one Father's Day, I'm not going to tell you which kid it was, but he. So it's a guy. That pretty much nails it down. It's not Megan, right? So now you got a 50-50 chance. So, but he tore a piece of paper out of a notebook and wrote a few things on it and folded it over, and that was my Father's Day card. It was great. But like I said, it's just like Mother's Day, only it's not as expensive, right? But it's good. I have loved being a dad. It's marked me for life. You'll see everything differently because you're a dad, and it changes you. I think probably one of the happiest days of my life was when I left the hospital in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, in a red High Sierra pickup with just one bench seat, and I was driving. Donna was in the passenger side, and Megan was in a car seat in the middle. And just poor as poor could be in college and everything, just trying to wrap up college. And but that was a happy day just to drive out of that hospital parking lot and home, and you get home and it's like, what's our next step? They told us everything's a hospital, so what do we do now? So then you get the joy of figuring it out, and hopefully you get it figured out soon enough so you don't permanently scar them for life. And if you are fortunate enough, well then you'll get to share some special moments along the way. Hug your kids if they're still at home. Hug them often. Offer words of encouragement often. It's so important that we do that, I think, as often as we can. And I can still reflect back on some hugs and special moments with our kids when they were growing up. I think that for Megan, probably the hug I remember is probably at her wedding. And of course the boys aren't married yet, but I remember hugs in their life. One time Will was facing this big muscly guy from DeKalb, Mix. You remember Mix? The guy's got muscles everywhere, and Will was just a little, he wasn't string bean, but he was pretty thin. And he ended up beating that guy in overtime, JJ's buddy up here, and I just couldn't. I just went to him on the sideline and gave him a big hug and picked him up and just about kissed him right on the mouth. And I was just so happy for him, I just knew he needed that win for his, just feeling like he had what it would take to become what he needed to be in that area of life and that sport. So I remember that, and it's like, that was really meaningful and things, and I just wouldn't take that. I don't think it was on video or anything, and nobody probably got a picture, but it's still riveted in my heart and mind, and how important that hug. I know what it felt like to me was awesome, but I'm sure it felt really good to him. And after that, I was thinking, well, you know what? I really want to hug my kids often, and then it's like, well, when I hug them, I want them to know it's really coming from the deep recesses of my heart. So I thought, well, there'll come a time maybe when I can hug Levi like that. And and there was. And so I was at Eastside High School. He's a junior running back. And it was a hot night that night. And I mean, he just kept those big tree trunk legs moving and just got 100 and some yards. And the game was over, and we beat Eastside, and that's awesome. And I'm just kind of making my way out of the visitor stands, and they're in the middle of the field, and I don't know really what possessed me to do it, but I took off running, and I wasn't in shape then, so it was hard to get from the stands to the middle of the field. I just took off running, and I broke protocol, and I did probably what no parent should do like that, but it was like, because I know it's a team effort and everything, but I just know he gave it all he had that night. I mean, everything. And I just went out like this, and I grabbed him up like this, and when I did, water and sweat went squirted. I mean, in that dry fit stuff, it's just like he got out of the Elkhart River. I'm serious. It was that much water. And I just got to pick him up in those shoulder pads and things, and I was soaking wet when I was done. And Will just kind of sat on the sideline and watched. He said, "Man, I wish I'd have videoed that." But I wish you would have too, because I'd had even a more vivid memory of it. But I just remember that's a significant hug, I think, that I remember from Levi's life. And so hug your kids often. Those are special moments. Would I like to turn the clock back and live maybe a day or two in their childhood again? Probably would if I could, but not more than just a day. Just 1 or 2 days, and okay, that's good. Go back to 20 years old, because that's a little better and a little easier for everybody. But yeah, I probably would. We used to have this thing, Love on Levi night, or Love on Pally night, or Love on Megan night, and I'd lay on one side of the bed, Donnie lay on the other, and they lay in the middle, and we just kind of bombard them with the things we loved about them. And those are special things. It's just, I don't know, sometimes we think we got to do the big things, the big things, the big trips and the big events and all those things, but I think it's just somehow figuring out how to love in the everyday like that probably is going to stick with them the most. But love your kids, invest in them as best as you can. And part of loving a kid, a child, a son or daughter, is being willing to talk about the things that you need to talk about as a parent. And that's not always easy, and maybe it's not even intuitive, depending on maybe the kind of family life that you and I have had. But it's important that we have, let's see, maybe pull up for me slide number 2. I toyed with what I might call this, a father's curriculum for his family. Go to the next slide. Talking points for dads while you're fishing. Right? If you like to fish, what are some talking points for dads? Next slide. 10 letters I need to write to my kids. Reflections on becoming a man. I toyed with a lot of titles for this. I'm going to let you take your pick. Whatever you want to call it. There's 3 of them. So you pick the one you like best. But this is really probably these are things that are going to come out of the book of Proverbs. And you'll understand why in just a second. But these are things that somewhere, like, don't let your kid graduate from high school without having had these discussions. And there's 10 of them. So I'm going to share with you a talking point or a key lesson in the curriculum of life. And then I will just share briefly, dear son or daughter, and then just kind of word that in a way, if it was a little letter or something on that point, this is what it might sound like. And then I'm going to have to move quickly because of what we're going to do, the third thing here. And we're going to have a section in the message this morning called, Can I Get a Witness? Can I get a witness? If you ever gone to urban church or something, maybe African American church or something, sometimes they talk about, can I get a witness? And people, amen and hallelujahs and praise the Lord, and that's okay. Feel free to do that at any time. Okay? It won't throw me off my game, all right? But here's the deal. Can I get a witness? And here's what the witness will be. Maybe you'll stand up and say, you know what? I just lived that point, and let me tell you how. Keep it about 60 seconds if you can, 60, 90 seconds. Here, let me tell you how. Or maybe you just stand up and say, you know, on that point right there, I just offer a prayer for all of our dads. I'm going to pray on that point, and you just offer a prayer. Okay? It's a can I get a witness portion of the point that's being made here this morning. So it's an active participation. You can have a part. It doesn't even have to be it might be a mom, or it might be someone younger, someone that saw this in their family. And maybe there's some things in here you just have to stand up and say, boy, I can relate to that. And boy, if I had things to do over, I would really listen to what the proverb writer says and Pastor Joe is trying to say on that point, because this is how things has gone. So maybe not as good as maybe you'd like it to have gone in that area of life. So it's that's how we're going to do it this morning, okay? So I've got Mike Weimer armed with a microphone, and so we'll get some live interaction from some of you here this morning on some of these things. And so we get to hear from more than just me, all right? It's kind of an open service style in a way. We're just going to incorporate that with some spontaneity into what's planned. But God has given us a manual of many valuable topics we need to talk about. And so slide number 5, you're going to understand after I read through these sampling of verses that this book is written such that a father can invest in the life of his son, especially sons and daughters as well, but especially sons. Because look at what he says. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and while at the same time not forsaking your mother's teaching. We find again in Proverbs 2:1, my son, if you will receive my sayings. 3:1, my son, do not forget my teaching. Chapter 4:1, hear, O sons, the instruction of a father. Hear, my son, and accept my sayings. And just roll with me here on the slides. My son, give attention to my words. My son, give attention to my wisdom. My son, observe the commandment of your father. My son, keep my words. So it's a book especially designed for dads to share with their sons and their daughters, their family, some very important things that they want them to know. And it kind of reminds me of Absalom, David's son Absalom, who chose a different path other than the path of wisdom. And Absalom's a long-haired guy, handsome-looking dude, riding a horse, his hair gets caught in a branch of a tree, and the enemy finds him hanging there and takes care of him, and David just weeps and cries and grieves over that son. And there's a point in that grief process where he says, my son, oh, my son Absalom. And I think that what we have to keep in mind is that what the proverb writer, we'll call him the sage father, let's call him that, the sage father, the guy that's lived life a little. He's 22, just before his son maybe heads off on his own. He wants to invest some good wisdom in his heart and his life. And hopefully this will guide him along the way. And so one of the first lessons that he gives to his son, slide number 8, I believe it will be our lesson number 1, our first talking point, is teach your son to fear God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Proverbs 9:10 says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so there's a negative thing on fear. We rescued a hound dog, a Walker Coonhound, and we're not sure what his history is, but we think that somebody was kind of mean to him. If you take a fly swatter and swat a fly in the kitchen and he sees it, he'll run the other way and cower. And if you happen to be a little closer to him, he might roll on his back and throw his legs up like this and just totally surrender. I have a wireless thermostat, and I just picked that up the other day and was going to just change the numbers a little bit. And when he saw me pick that up, he ran away and cowered. You might have a broom, be sweeping with a broom, and he'll cower. Well, that's an aspect of fear, isn't it? And we're trying to change all that. And I think over time we're going to change it. And we are changing it. But that's an aspect of fear. And that's not what the proverb writer has in mind when he talks about the fear of God. The fear of God is not a negative thing. God's going to hit me. No, that's not what he means. Now, the fear of God is there's a sense of awe, there's a respect. I don't want to disappoint him. So that's a positive thing. I don't want to disappoint God. When you meet somebody that's really important to you like that, and you want to, someone you highly revere and highly respect, there's a sense in which you don't want to disappoint them. And I read a story here recently about back when The Lord of the Rings came out, and Christopher Lee, you remember big, tall Christopher Lee, he plays Saruman in The Lord of the Rings. And he talked about a time when he was a younger man, somewhere along the way he ran into J.R.R. Tolkien, the guy that wrote Lord of the Rings. And he said, when he met him, he of course he loved and revered this guy, and later on he gets to star in the movie that was made about the Lord of the Rings. And he talked about the fact that when he saw him, he had all kind of trembling. And he said in that Christopher Lee deep voice when he met Tolkien, and I almost knelt. And I almost knelt when he saw him. That's what the fear of God is. It's just a sense of which you find yourself in the presence of somebody that you revere, and it's a positive fear, and you want to live your life for them. And so I think as a dad, one of the big things we have to do is we have to help define God and explain God, and we have to, I think, help our families get comfortable talking about and doing the spiritual life. I don't know about your family, but my family, my dad never talked about spiritual things. My mom did. And so I got a lot of spiritual truth that way, but my dad never would go there. And I think that was tough for me for a long time because, just trying to figure out how this was supposed to work in the life of a man. And so I would say, if I were going to put in the form of a letter, dear son, honor God with your life, fear Him and put Him first, be a part of a church family, pursue a close, vibrant, personal relationship with Jesus. That's how I would just say it. And maybe that's a letter, a conversation we need to have. Hey, can I get a witness this morning? Does somebody want to address that point? Anybody here? Can I get a witness? We got a microphone here. Anybody? You want to pray about that? You want to, for the group, or you want to just share, hey, yeah, this was my experience too, or anybody? Okay, lesson number 1, can I get a witness? We're not going to get witnesses, maybe. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of having a wonderful example of a father.
Awesome.
In that he was not afraid to speak into all of us kids. I was from a family of 6, and I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters that just had a lot of truth spoken to them by a father who really believed deeply in the power of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And I am so thankful for that. It has served me well, even in raising my own family. Yeah,
that's awesome. Arnold, right?
Yes.
Arnold, yeah, I remember him, Operation Foundation, driving around in his truck giving water to everybody in those first few years. Great guy. So he's handed me a bottle of water or 2. And I do really appreciate his life. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Yeah. Lesson number 2, slide number 9. Teach your son not only to fear God and your family, but to guard your mind. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Watch over your heart with all diligence. The Father says to His Son, for from it flows the springs of life. And heart in the book of Proverbs could be substituted for mind for the heart. It's the one and the same according to the proverb writer. And the way he uses it and the way they define the word. And so if we think about it, be careful what you think about. And your thought life. And where you let your mind go. And don't believe everything you think, because sometimes you need a little time to season out a perspective and to balance out a viewpoint. And so dads, have a conversation with your family about what they're putting into their mind. Because everything flows out of the heart, out of the mind. And it says here, a spring is not a pool. A spring is an outflowing, outgushing stream of water. In other words, teach your son or daughter to guard their mind diligently, because everything in life comes out of it. And see, we all have these beliefs that life will come to us if I have these certain things, that I can receive life joyfully. And if I have these things, then I can receive life joyfully. And if I have certain things, and I've got these loves, and I have these hopes, and I have these things that align themselves in my life, then I can be happy and I can be joyful. And we have to sometimes check that. And I just asked you the question this morning, what does your heart look to? What are you trying to find an identity in other than God? And so we have to think about that and have that conversation. If I have that, then my life will be happy, and I'll be secure, and I'll be somebody. And we all get to that place in our life where we make those kinds of decisions. We start thinking these kinds of thoughts. And eventually, how we believe about that is going to come out of our life. We're going to start making decisions in light of that very thing. And so it's important that we guard our hearts and guard our minds. And I'll wrap up the message coming back to this particular lesson. So I'll say more about it maybe at the end. But dear son, give your mind to good things. Learn something new and apply it to your life. Allow a biblical worldview to shape your thinking about all things and help you answer the deeper questions of life. Don't be afraid to allow for the supernatural in your life, in your explanation of origins and how we came to be. And open yourself up to that. Don't wall off entire areas of inquiry and possibility just because you're going to assert something as crazy as there is no God or something like that. Or naturalistic explanations for how we all came to be. Be careful. Guard your mind. Guard how you think. Guard your worldview. Let God speak into that and shape that. And out of that kind of thinking, your thinking will produce behavior, and behavior will turn into habits and lifestyle, and eventually that turns into a destiny in how we're going to live our life. Okay, so we want to make sure we are thinking right, and we're letting God's truth impact that. Anybody care to speak to that or pray to that point? Anybody? Yep.
I'll just say a prayer on that.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, thank you for today's lesson and just the words of wisdom that we're hearing to help protect the minds of our children. And I just pray that the parents make the efforts and are diligent to protect minds. It's our duty to help our children make good decisions and just allow us to stick to that and not be lazy about whether it's monitoring their television or internet or friendships. Let's just allow us to guide them in the right directions. Amen.
Thank you. Another talking point is about obedience, about obeying your parents. And all through the first section of Proverbs, you're going to see statements about, hear my son, your father's instruction. And we'll see it repeated in several places. Hear my son, accept my sayings. I have directed you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in upright paths. My son, give attention to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your sight. Keep them in the midst of your heart or your mind. Proverbs 3:11, my son, do not reject the discipline of the Lord, nor loathe his reproof. For whom the Lord loves, he reproves, even as a father the son in whom he delights. The obedience is a big deal. Obedience. And there's something in us, I don't know why, but I don't know why we have to give 10-second counts, or, but we do, and or why we have to tell a child 5 times to do something. We do. There's something in us that wants our own way, isn't there? There's something in us that wants to not do what we're told. It's part of being human. It's part of wanting to be independent. And so if I were to speak to maybe the younger ones here, or those still at home, or maybe in junior high or high school, I would just make these points with you this morning. That parents know more than children know, generally. Okay? That's generally true. And you got to take it by faith if you're not there yet. Okay? Where you're going to take my word for that. But generally they know more than parents. Parents know more than children know. And it's usually true. And they have good reasons for asking you to do something. So just bear that in mind. Number 2 is children need to come under the authority. If they never learn to come under the authority of a parent, then it's going to be really hard. If they won't listen to parents, then it's going to be really hard for them to listen to teachers and coaches. If they won't listen to them, then it'll be really hard for them to listen to police officers and judges and so on and so forth. And so it's important that we learn early in life to value authority and submit to authority, especially when we know, like the parents that really truly love us and have our best interests at heart. And so 3, your safety and well-being are of utmost importance to your parents. If you obey your mom and dad, chances are that's going to protect you from a lot of things. And it might even spare your life. Just bear that in mind. Number 4, by creating boundaries and guardrails, it establishes a more secure place for a family. All members can grow and thrive when they have clearly defined boundaries. There's something about having a guardrail and a boundary that helps life go better for everybody. And as a parent, to set those boundaries and make them clear and articulate them. And then when a violation of the boundary happens, throw the flag, step off the penalty, be consistent with it every time. The game won't go well if you're not consistent with the application of the boundaries you've set. And so as a parent, I think there's a calling for us to be faithful in that way. And then by obeying your parents with a good attitude, it gives them confidence to let you go as you get older, to let you go and do more maybe than you've been able to do in the last maybe a couple months or years. So they'll give you more freedom. Okay, so dear son, you are my greatest joy and pleasure. I may never have a whole lot of wealth in life, but if you'll honor God with your life, use your life for good, be a voice for truth and love in the world, there is no greater honor or wealth that you could give me, to respect people in your life and the authority in your life. Can I get a witness on this point about obedience? Maybe you did obey, maybe you didn't obey. Maybe you got a story to share about it. Share with us.
Hi there. My dad had a way of talking to us 3 boys. When I was growing up, I would probably listen to my dad before I'd listen to my mom, just because he was a guy and he could relate. But he would always tell us, hey son, listen to me because I won't tell you wrong. And I think he was just instilling us, hey, listen to your father. And it was his way of sharing his Christianity and instilling that in us. But he never really talked about God, but you always knew that that's what he was implying, But he was a good role model, and he raised 3 kids that weren't even his own. I mean, he was my stepfather. I lost my real father when I was 9 years old. But mom married him, and he's dad. So, but growing up, I didn't want to disappoint him, and kind of going along with what you said earlier, the fear, and it wasn't a fear of him; it was a fear of letting him down. And so, just listen to your fathers, and they're not going to guide you wrong.
And thank you. And on the issue of obedience and things, I mean, a good question for us to ask is, as dads, are we obedient? Are we being obedient to our authority in our life? And that goes a long way, I think, in communicating, who we value and what we value. Thank you. Good point. 4th lesson here must be taught as well. A father must teach his son or daughter to select your companions well. Slide number 11. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, let us ambush the innocents without cause, let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as those who go down to the pit. I mean, here's a gang appealing to a guy maybe that's getting sucked up into something. And the sage father understands something, and that is, as you get older, as parents, your influence decreases a little bit in terms of just the everyday, and then they're going to be out there in the world, they'll be making friendship with other people. And the sage father says, hey, I want you to be selective in who you hang with and who you run with, because that could get you in a lot of trouble. I've got relatives that served long prison sentences simply because they hung around with the wrong people. And they were always, their life was less than they could have been if they would have just chosen better acquaintances to run with. What about choosing friends. What about, how do we think about this? Well, I always thought about just when you make friends with people who will pull you up rather than drag you down. People who enhance your life, people who add value to your life. Surround yourself with amazing people. People who put you down all the times are not your truly good friends. Hang around people with similar values. Friends who have a similar worldview. You know, when David, my son-in-law, asked to marry Megan, I said, "Are you kidding?" No, I didn't say that. I was nice. When David asked to marry Megan, I didn't say, "Are you kidding?" I said, "You know what, David?" I said, "You're a great young man." I said, "We're looking for somebody who would just pick up where we've left off. This is what we've invested. Here's what's important to us. Can you pick it up and carry it on?" And I think at that point, he got the most sober. He came up from Iwu and talked to us, just Donette and I, one evening. And when I shared that with him, and Donette shared some things as well. But I remember when I shared that with him, that's when he got the most sober. And it's like, oh, you've invested in her, and I can, depending on how I am, I can either enhance, continue to bless her and pour into her and invest in her and draw her out and the potential God gave her, or I can mess that up and I can impede and regress in this. And so it kind of, I could see he was really thinking about that. And so, the similar values of wanting to enhance people, build people up that you're around. These are your best friends. These are the best people to spend life with. A good friend, someone said, is someone who helps us feel better about life. They respect our beliefs. They don't make fun of us. They don't try to get us to do things that are bad all the time. They don't talk about us behind our backs. They can be trusted. They help us be better than we are, okay, normally or alone. They add value to life. I want to be that kind of person. I want to add value to people's life. And so, dear son, value the people that God brings into your life and develop your close relationships with others, your closer relationship with others who lead a purposeful and focused life. People who want you to people who make you want to be a better man after you've been with them. And I remember that's what Megan had shared with me. It's like, Dad, after I spend time with David, he makes me want to be a better Christ follower. And that's what stands out to me about him. And she didn't go into the details of why, but she just said, when I hang out with him, it just makes me want to elevate my game. Be that kind of friend. And look for those kind of people. Can I get a witness on that point? Anybody? Yeah. Anybody? Yes.
I think it's goes along with an amen, but I know with my dad, you were talking about sometimes we get hung out with the wrong people. My dad always had the no-fault policy. So I was with the wrong group, give me a call, no questions asked, I'll come pick you up. I've done the same with my daughter. If you're in the wrong group, wrong place, wrong time, just let me know. I'll come pick you up, no questions asked, and be the father, be that person to show that guidance that you've found that you were at the wrong place at the wrong time, but give you that out.
Point. There's another lesson here. Fifth lesson, slide number 12. Have this conversation with your son and daughter, especially your sons, okay? Learn to control your body and your appetites. It's so important that dads have this conversation with their sons. There's a lot of tragedy that happens in people's lives because of neglecting to do this very thing. It's interesting in Proverbs 30:20, this is the way of an adulterous woman. In fact, the book of Proverbs has a lot to say about that. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I've done nothing wrong. Guys and gals there are guys and gals in the world whose purpose is to seduce you into something maybe down a path that you probably don't need to go. And just know that there's individuals like that in the world, and we don't have to pronounce curses and put A's on people or whatever. to identify them as such, but we just live our life with wisdom, and we understand that not all things are, appearances aren't always consistent with what maybe we're believing about someone or some situation in our lives. And so I want you to think about your body, God-given appetites that God has given, and making sure we rein those in and harness that energy for good. It's not all about all that happens in the world. If you watch TV and read certain books and things, have certain conversations, hang with certain friends, we get the feeling that maybe we can live life and we can kind of dance through and skate through relationships unscathed, and everything's kind of like the bridges of Madison County. Well, here's what really happens. Girlfriends send sexually explicit letters to a man's wife that he wrote to the girlfriend. A woman's lover contacted her parents and told them about the affair. One man contracted a disease and gave it to his wife. Another woman flirted with a man who became infatuated and stalked her. One woman became pregnant and went public with the whole thing. There have been scores of people in life whose lives have been forever changed because they went down a path that they didn't check the appetite and they let their appetite get the best of them and went down a path that forever altered their life. And what are some things that could possibly happen if we go down this road? If I'm a dad talking to a son, here's a conversation I want to have. Think about who you're going to hurt in your family. If you're married, the spouse you're going to hurt. If you're not married, the family, your mom and dad that you're going to hurt. Okay? Number 2, realize the physical health risks that come with it. Another point, know that a gateway is opened up. More could happen than you wanted to happen. And consider the reputation of Jesus and picture the time in your life when, God's grace is great, but we're with the Savior and He reviews our life and He's going to ask us, now what about this? What about these decisions that you made? And remind yourself that we all are heroes to somebody, and this is going to impact people around us. And weigh out the internal strife. And when we let our bodily appetites get the best of us, it can ruin much of the potential, I think, that we have in our life. It's not total life devastation. There's recovery. God's grace is wonderful. But just know that this is going to impact your life, and it could impact in a very negative way. So, dear son, you have so much to offer the world. Don't get enslaved to anything that will rob you of your fullest potential. You have a great contribution to make, so honor women in your life. If you're a daughter, honor the men in your life. Steer away from addictive tendencies. Enjoy life. Be fully alive in the moment, but make good relationship choices. This may be a harder one in certain ways. Maybe it's a prayer point. But can I get a witness on this particular point this morning? Anybody?
I would certainly like to pray about this. Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity to come before you. We just pray for our children to have peace about this, but also, Lord, I pray that our kids are pure their whole lives. I pray, Lord, that they keep their bodies pure until they're married. I just pray, Lord, that you would just block out the world from them. I pray, Lord, as parents, we would just give them the tools to be pure and to keep their bodies pure, Lord. For all this we pray in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Slide number 16. Enjoy your wife, or enjoy your spouse, we could say, sons and daughters. Teach your son, teach your daughter to enjoy their spouse. Drink water from your own cistern. Proverbs 5:15 says, drink water from your own cistern and fresh water from your own well. The proverb writer uses euphemisms all the time. They had an aversion toward saying things explicitly of a sexual nature. And so they would say things in word pictures and use euphemisms to do that. And so what he's saying is, he's just saying, hey, focus your energy, all of your emotional, sexual, relational energy toward your spouse. Take it all there. And dads, that's an important thing for all of us, fathers and husbands. It's important for us to take all of our energy to our spouses. And let your fountain, your procreative capacity be blessed. And here it is, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, Proverbs says, as a longing hind and a graceful doe. Let her breast satisfy you at all times. Be exhilarated always with her love. For why should you, my son, be exhilarated with an adulteress and embrace the bosom of a foreigner? So enjoy your spouse. I don't think I need to do deep exposition on that this morning. I think you got the picture. Take all of your energy to your spouse and see what God does with that and in that relationship. And so, dear son, God has a beauty in mind for you, and my joy will be to present you a well-trained, well-tended to, and mentored son on your wedding day. Or maybe it's a daughter to present you as a wonderful bride on your wedding day, free from addictions and full of energy and life and adventure. And so honor your dates, and when you're blessed with a special lady or special guy, pay attention to him or her and have fun learning about life together. Can I get a witness? Anybody?
I can say with this one, I've lived this one to where you don't always get time to enjoy your spouse being in the military, and I want to pray for all the men and women that serve every day. They don't always get time with their spouse and or their kids for that matter. So make sure you raise your kids, if they do happen to go military, whatever it is, enjoy what you have.
Yes. Good. Awesome. Enjoy your spouse. Here's number 7, slide 17. Watch your words. He says, my son, put away from you a deceitful mouth. Put devious lips far from you. Make sure you don't speak lies. Make sure you don't speak hypocritically. Make sure you don't speak perversely. Make sure you don't speak deceitfully. Speak pure words. And the proverb says, the lips of the righteous man speak wisely. The lips of the righteous are a fountain of life and a tree of life. I love how it says that. The lips of the righteous are like choice silver. They're satisfying. They feed others. They bring healing and deliverance, and they're patient and kind and wise and truthful and honest and pure and soft and gentle and slow to anger, and their mouthpieces for the Lord. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. On the lips of the discerning wisdom is found. When there are many words, transgression is unavoidable. What's the sage father trying to say? Well, there's a time definitely for speaking and communication and talking, but the wisdom would have us to believe, and the sage father would have us to believe, that there's a time to shut it down as well. If we talk too much, if we look at other places in Proverbs, if we talk too much, there's boasting. Many times that in doing this, a person can talk about all their achievements, maybe their past records, or where they've been, or how much they're worth, or what they possess. The sage father says, peep it. Don't need to do that. Let your life speak. But you don't need to talk about all the things all the time. Okay? Why are you so insecure that you feel like you got to boast? And the sage father says, if we talk too much, it can come across as disrespecting, because talking too much brings about a loss of respect. Too many words and people just turn you off. So, peep it. And then revealing. If we talk too much, we can reveal more than we should. And they tell young ladies, don't reveal too much on the first date. You got to peep it. You got to be mysterious, right? And the sage father says, if you talk too much, you'll tend to reveal more than you should. It'll be feel more disrespectful in the end than respectful. You might even boast some. And then we look at other places. You might even wound people with your words if you talk too much. So be careful how you use your words. People that talk maybe more than we should are more likely to cause quarreling with gossip and backstabbing. And so there's a time to peep it. And then there's, if we talk all the time, guess what? We're not listening, because we're talking. And we're sharing our own limited viewpoints that we've always shared, because we've not taken time to listen and learn. So the proverb writer says, hey, let's be careful. Be careful about your speech about your talk and how you talk and what you talk about. In fact, some of the most powerful words to say to somebody, especially your spouse. And I just kind of came across these, and I'm endeavoring to kind of live in light of these. And maybe they'll be helpful to you too. But this first powerful word, question is, what can I get you? A simple line conveys a real sense of care and concern. What can I get you? How can I help you? Number 2, another powerful statement. I'm grateful that you're in my life. It conveys a deep sense of appreciation. Number 3, you are beautiful inside and out. It conveys a sense of total acceptance. Number 4, thank you for all that you do. You're conveying a sense of respect and acknowledgement. If you're married, here's one that might get you a great weekend. You turn me on. It's kind of funny to hear a pastor say that. But conveys to them they're attractive to you. I'm so in love with you. Conveys a wonderful sense of connection. I'm here for you always. Conveys a sense of commitment. Dear son, use your words wisely. Use them to build up other people, the special people in your life. Encourage people with your words. Build into them. Anybody like to witness to number 7? The 7th lesson here, talking point with a son or daughter. Anybody? Your words. So important, isn't it? I think you're all living up to it. We're all living up to it. We're minimizing our words. All right. Let's leave it right there.
Wait.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
That's one thing I really appreciate about my dad, I think, is he does a lot for, the church and my family and the school and the community, and he never talks about it. He never says,
Yeah.
oh, I do this, and that. He doesn't do it. He just lets his actions speak. And the other thing is that very rarely does anything negative ever come out of his mouth about somebody else. He might put himself down, but as far as if you come to him or you're talking to him, he's never ever going to put you down and be negative. And I just
Amen.
appreciate it.
I agree with that. That's awesome. That's wonderful to appreciate. Lesson number 8. Teach your son, pursue your work and do a good job. Go to the ant, the proverb says. When anybody else have problems getting the kids to help you clean the house when they're at home? Did anybody else have problems with that in your home? Man, that was hard. And because it has to be a team effort. When you got, 5, 6 people making messes everywhere in your home, you got to team up on those kind of jobs. And one of the things that I found effective over the years was if I stood and barked out orders with a wiffle ball bat in my hand, it helped. Yeah. And I tried not to use it, but it just helped. I don't know why. But here's the deal. I think the proverb writer wants you to be a good worker when the boss isn't even there to look at it. And when he has no threatening gesture to make, you're still going to work hard. That's what Proverbs emphasizes, is to work hard at what you do and teach them to work hard. And there was a lot of things that maybe my dad maybe didn't do in terms of spiritual life, but one thing that he did do, he taught me to work hard. And I've seen him get up and go in those coal mines early in the morning before daylight, and he came home late in the evening after it got dark, sometimes in those winter months. He could hardly hold his head up, and he'd still go to work because he believed in that. And so I say to you, work hard, trust God. Work hard, trust God, and go to sleep. And live your life that way. Sleep deep when you're able, okay? Make a good living. Hard work usually gets rewarded in time. Make for a great coworker. Pull your weight so the other workers don't have to pick up your slack. Make a great representative. Be the hardest working person in the office, especially if you are a Christ follower and people know that you are. Make a great contribution in your world. Dear son, be the very best you can be. Do your jobs well. Lead your family. Encourage your coworkers. Always get better at what you do. Be reliable, teachable, and faithful at the task. Can anybody else give me a witness on this lesson, this talking point that every parent needs to have with a family?
I always get heck from my husband because I get called into work. I work at Martin's, and I get called into work, and he goes, "Why do you always say you go in?" And I said, "Because my father drilled it into my head that if they need help, you're there." And he did drill that into our heads. It was like, even if we had a date, I don't care. I need help. You're going to break your date and come to work. So, and I don't like it when people call off of work because they have something else to do. They should have asked off instead of just calling off. And because it puts a burden on everybody else if they're not there. And so it's very important to be a good worker, to have that in your ethics, to make that a priority, an important part, because that does show your character. If you can be relied on to be there and you're consistent in your attendance, you have a lot more respect, and they know they can count on you. And so my husband can get mad at me for it, but that's just part of who I am and what I was taught, and I'm not going to change about it.
Awesome.
And so hard work is important, and it makes you feel good too, I think.
Definitely. Lesson number 9, and that is, son, manage your money well. Slide 19. Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of all your produce, so your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. Just honor God with your money and all the resources in your life. Biggest money management principles, you'll see this also in the book of Proverbs. First of all is get a job. Work hard. That's a great source of income, having a job. Spend less than you make. And start saving now, but don't forget to create good memories with your family while they're still at home. Dear son, I want you to live as worry-free life as possible. Love what God has already given you, and don't be lured into bad money decision mistakes. Take joy in the simple things. And listen to this. Earn all you can, but not at your family's expense. Save all you can, but don't forget to create memories today. Give all you can, but don't neglect your own responsibilities. Can we get a witness on this important talking point in a family? Any of you ever remember the money talk your dad gave you and what he shared with you?
I got a little bit of a funny story. We have a 2-year-old, Bennett, and he told me one day, we were sitting there, and he told me randomly, "I'll be the boss now of the house." And I said, "Well, you can be the boss when you start paying the bills, so you can be the boss of the house." So then, I don't know, probably a month later, we found all this money that he had in his pockets, under his bed. He's hiding money all over the place. We were like, What are you doing? He goes, "I pay the bills now. I'd be the boss."
Good.
So we've been working on that, having him save his money so he can buy the house and be the boss.
Praise God. He's managing money, maybe not for the best reasons, but he's managing money. So if you're going to manage it so you can be the boss, that's a good motive. Final lesson is love your neighbor. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to do it. Proverbs 3:27 says, "Dear son, when it's all said and done, may all your neighbors say he was a joy or she was a joy to have in the neighborhood. Friendly, kind, helpful, responsible." Was your dad a father, a good neighbor? Are you a good neighbor? Like to comment on your neighbor? Can we get a witness on contributing something good to the neighborhood?
Hi Mom, hi Dad. I never had a lot growing up. I grew up in foster care for most of my life. And my parents, when they got us, taught us the value of what we did have. And, you know, if someone needs something, you give it to them. They've always done that. Thank you for teaching me that.
Amen. 10 lessons, 10 talking points have to happen in your home and your family. And if you had this or something close to it, you're a very blessed man. And sometimes, some people maybe don't like the word lucky, but I think we know what they mean. You're a lucky man. You're a blessed man or a blessed woman. God's providentially cared for in your life. And we're going to have a guy come and sing right now for us. Something about being a lucky man. Mike, why don't you share it with us?
A month ago, when Joey first asked me to sing, I opened the service. This month, I'm closing it. Next month, I'll be out by the drinking fountains, between the two bathroom doors for your listening pleasure. If I were to continue the list, number 11 would be keep a sense of humor. Teach your kids to do what's right, but also not take life so seriously. This isn't a church song. As most of you know, I spent most of my life, from the time I was 14 until just a few years ago, playing in the bars to a whole different crowd. And those were mostly country songs, and I heard this one probably 10, 12 years ago. And today's Father's Day, and we celebrate fathers on this day. But I also want us to remember to, as fathers, celebrate that we have an ever-loving Father that created everything that we have to take care of while we're here. And hopefully someday He'll welcome us back home again. There's days that I hate my job. A small town in the whole world too. Last Sunday when my cold's lost, Lord, it put me in a bad mood. There's days that I curse the rain and then complain when it's too darn hot. I see what everybody else has and I forget about all I've got. Hey, Lord, I'm a lucky man. God's given me a pretty fair house and a piece of land, a few dollars in the coffee can. My old truck's still running good. My ticker's ticking like they say it should. Supper in the oven, a good woman's loving. One more day to be my little kid's there. Hey, Lord, I'm a lucky man. I got some friends that would be there fast. I could call them any time of day. I got got some brothers that got my back, a mama that I think's the same. I got a brand new rod and reel, got a whole week off this year. Dad had a close call last spring, we're lucky that he's still here. Hey Lord, I'm a lucky man, and God's given me a pretty fair hand, house and a piece of, few dollars in a coffee can. My old truck's still running good, my ticker's ticking like they say it should. Supper in the oven, the good woman's love, one more day to be my little kid's dad. Hey Lord, I'm a lucky man. My ticker's ticking like they say it should. Supper in the oven, good woman's loving, and even my dad days aren't that bad. Hey Lord, I'm a lucky man.
You feel lucky today, blessed. God's providential care of God has been so gracious in our lives. If so, will you stand with me this morning? And we're going to let you go. And remember, there's lots of great things in the back for you to consider taking home, okay? Last week I talked about a sugar addiction. My sugar addiction gets to live on another week. So I will, with joy, take something home today. And I hope you do too. Will you pray with me? Father, thank you so much for your grace and your love and for being with us. And thank you for your truth. And we thank you for these talking points. And maybe at some point along the way, there'll be an opportune time to have this conversation. And I just pray you give us wisdom in those moments. And we thank you, Jesus, for all the things you taught us about your Father. You talked about the Father's hands and the Father's will, Father's throne and the Father's presence. And thank you for being committed to the Father. And we ask and pray now that your sonship would be conveyed and conferred onto us, that we could be part of your family and have our Father, your Father as our Father this morning. And so we just pray that we would live in light of your grace today. Give us strength, give us wisdom, that sense of humor that Mike has referred to. And help us to go from this place ready to invest, ready to love, ready to do life a little differently, ready to engage in conversation and mentor and invest in these that you've entrusted to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a great day.